Well, you know what? Let me shut the door.
Hi, welcome to another Google Hangout. And today we have our guest, Jeanne. She's in America. Hi, Jeanne.
Hi.
And we will be discussing art. She's an artist herself, and myself, I also have an education on art. And so we want to discuss about art and politics and the role that currently art and artists themselves have within this proposal of world change and also becoming politically aware. So let's begin with the first point, Jeanne. What about the expansion of the definition of art? What could you say about this, what we are proposing?
Well, I think it's been commodified like everything else in capitalism, consumer capitalism, so that art and the role of the artist is not unlike any other profession, so that it becomes like a closed circle of self-referential, pursuit of fame and wealth. And a lot of it's not all like that, of course, but so much of it now is really it's so isolated from what's actually going on in the world. And some of the art that is claiming opposite is actually kind of in a different realm of a different kind of sequestering of either transcendental or drug related or otherworldly. Or so I guess what's missing in my mind and in yours, I guess, from our discussion is the idea of the artist being an agent of social change and challenging the status quo of what is presented as culture and who benefits from it and why we accept it as being creative and for the common good, and what we can do to create our own culture and just sort of step outside the system that we find ourselves in to actually think of solutions that our creativity can be applied to that would actually create decent living conditions for people to start. So I guess that's
Exactly. We are not separate from the economics realm, the political realm, because our lives are defined by these systems as well. So many people may try and argue, but art doesn't have to do anything with politics if the person doesn't want to, or economics. But in the end, you require money to live, right? And you require money to be able to have the time, the material to express yourself in whichever media you usually use to create, for example, as an artist. And we're witnessing at the moment, as you were mentioning, yes, the commodification of art. What can you say about, for example, someone like Banksy or the people in Occupy Wall Street that somehow relate this to a form of using a form of expression to express the problems in the world?
I think it's always applaudable when anybody challenges the system and takes it on and asks what actually is going on here. And I think Banksy, is doing fun. I think it's fun to see what he's doing and how he's challenging the commodification of everything. And in this case, it was like Occupy Wall Street, his latest, one where it's Occupy the musical. So that was a street art that he did, and he's been working in New York. And I think that's good because it helps people see outside. It just helps awaken people that may not have realized that actually nothing has happened from Occupy Wall Street. It's become the musical. It's become like another chapter in the history of non-progressive. So the question is like what could take its place other than the and I'm not an expert. I'm just a regular person talking about this. So it's not. I don't mean to sound like I have an answer. I don't. I'm just what is our role? Okay, so now we see that it's a joke, and we see that it actually hasn't affected social change the way we would have liked. So what practical methods could we use? And something like the living income, which has been shown to be effective in countries like in South Africa and Namibia. And now even Switzerland is taking on this idea of providing a living income for all of its citizens. This kind of a pursuit is really what, what could be the second phase of something like the art of Banksy, where, you have the awakening to the commodification of everything and monetizing, like the whole entire world, that's all that's, challenging that paradigm that it's not about money and our lives are about life. It's not about how much we can acquire or, so how we separate ourselves with money. So the idea would be to unseparate ourselves with money. So use money to create, inequality, at least a decent standard of living for everyone. And so that is a step that I would like to see, art and politics merging together.
That's a great idea. In fact, right now, as we were saying, art hasn't had any further consequence in our reality other than remaining in its separate realm, while we cannot really blind ourselves from the reality that is going on. Also in America, you might also be seeing it and realizing that, yes, we cannot no longer think of fantasy, beauty, or anything like that in art when the world is in the situation that we are in. And yes, unfortunately, it is currently part of how politics work, the economic system work. So as an artist, and this aspect of self-responsibility, not only because one is an artist, but as a human being, as part of this creation and being a creator ourselves, being able to integrate this awareness and this ability to use that information to, for example, educate people. So what can you say in relation to how you would see that this aspect of the individual, the creator, the artist in society? Why have we become so idle, in essence, and how we could promote this aspect of self-change, self-responsibility in art?
Well, I think one thing that's cool is that, artists and non-artists alike start seeing how much fun it could be to actually be creative and to realize everybody has that ability to be an artist. Artists aren't some special class of people. Everybody is potentially, an artist. So all you have to do is just do it. And so the border between, the fine art and living art, it's creating this idea of living art, and somebody like, Banksy in a way is helping people, just take themselves seriously enough to go out and try and do something. So taking it out into the, internet, and there's so many avenues now for people to break down the barrier between what was considered, the hallowed space of the artist, that you had to get your MFA from, such and such a school, and then blah, blah, blah. Well, the artists of my generation are now out in the Hamptons. I mean, I don't know what happened, A lot of them are, like,
they hit the jackpot and then forgot about anything.
Yeah. So, and there's a certain, studied cynicism that's applauded, and that's, it's, and isolation. I think so many, so these are the kinds of things that are not necessary. One of the ways to sort of promote is the idea that it's more fun to challenge these paradigms that we've just automatically considered inviolate. This, academy that we seek validation from, that, so there's still the marketplace, of course, and I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, sell your art, make money, so you don't have to work in an office. I think that's cool. I would like to do that, so I'm sure everybody would, That's the thing. You ask yourself, who wants to be in an office all day, or who wants to be at a machinery? Nobody. So anyway, I don't know if I answered your question, but
yeah, that's well part of it in relation to, yes, expanding these barriers that we've created in terms of the loyalty that is now created onto this art point as a realm in itself, separate from reality, and also how it's become just another point that, for example, people, if they do make a good living out of it, then any form of really being able to, because the artists are essentially considered as people that have the ability to see the world with a different set of eyes and being able to see reality and understand the mechanisms and so forth. So within this, as a proposal, is also to integrate that realization, not only to remain within the usual academics and the usual art circles, but really become and integrate oneself in society as the agent of change, as the person that is well educated, for example, promoting education in terms of economy, politics, just as a point of self-awareness as a human being, you know, regardless of you being an artist or anything else. It's just like the human being as a creator, and how the current creation that we have as our world is defined entirely by money. And if one, as an artist or as a doctor or as anything else, would like to have a nice and decent way of living, one requires to be supported financially. And if one doesn't have that support, as you were mentioning, you have a very unpleasant living condition. And why should that be if we are proving ourselves to be able to be human beings that are creative, that are able to, yes, produce works of art, and yes, sell them, because that is also a way to live right now. But how would life change if money, for people, for example, that would not want to work in this type of jobs, and they decide to do art, for example, they could be supported and still be able to sell them, but not be able to not depend any longer on not having money to be creative. So that's yet another aspect for it. What do you say?
Well, one thing I was thinking of is, like, you know, the Bauhaus, William Morris, these different people in art history who talked about, you know, integrating function and form and all that stuff. And the thing is that these days the disparity in wealth is so great. You know, you talk about a time like when William Morris, or even in the Bauhaus, there was more opportunity for people to grow their own food, to have a better standard of living. There was ways that it wasn't as, we didn't have as many just desperate people as you do now. And the situation around the world is so desperate that it just seems like ludicrous to act as if you can continue to maintain this sort of worldview of the artist is a part of, you know, a separate realm of society. It's almost as if, you know, the world is almost, you know, it's like it's on fire, right? And so if artists don't step up, it behooves, you know, it's the responsibility, I think, of people who are, because of this idea of sensitivity. Well, what is it that the artist is supposed to do? The idea is that, like you said, they can see, they have a different maybe way of looking at it, and it's not that it's you know, say it's better because a doctor can actually heal you and you can walk out of an office and otherwise you might be dead. That's probably a much better, you know, if on a 1 to 10 scale, right? You want to have that guy, not the guy who's going to paint your picture.
Yes.
So, you know, but I'm saying, okay, so everybody has this, you know, ability to do different things. Okay, so maybe the artist can see these disparities. That's their job. They see the differences that's going on. Well, right now, the freaking world is on fire. You know, you're going to sit around and, you know, support a system that you know, does not ask that you get involved and figure out a solution to help, you know, the animals, the people, the earth, you know, the problems we're facing, the water alone. You know, any one issue is like on a scale is off the charts in terms of its need to be addressed. So I guess what I'm saying is that, you know, artists should, if they can, you know, become involved on a local level, become interested in this idea of a living income, which is a really simple, you know, practical method that can be applied for people around the world. It's like it's not going to affect anyone's standard of living, you know. It's only going to enhance it. It's only going to enhance our standard of living, and that's what, you know, people are so afraid of some kind of totalitarian ideology that would have to be in place in order for fairness to exist. I mean, it's incredible brainwashing. You know, it's just as bad as, like, you know, thinking that what you're given on TV is a reflection of reality.
Exactly. And so that's, I mean, it kind of sums up the whole thing. To stop the passivity that is currently existing in art, maybe finding a world of fantasy and illusion, and, you know, avoiding to see the world on fire, as you were mentioning. So what we are doing here is precisely inviting people, inviting not only artists, but everyone to become these individuals that are able to understand that, yes, I mean, everyone knows that the world is quite in a dire situation. So what can we do as individuals about this? And yes, art as creation can serve as, for example, promoting a form of education or depicting the situation that we're witnessing at the moment. But in the end, the solution won't come just by, for example, witnessing some street art, just like that, right? So it's about becoming involved in the actual political movement that we are promoting here, which is, yes, understanding that if people are supported financially, then many things will change, right, including the way that we perceive our creative ability.
And it's also a way to challenge the idea of what you perceive as politics, because politics is not some separate area that you can choose or not choose to be involved in. You're actually involved in it even if you don't want to be. So you might as well be, you know. I mean, we are all political people. There's no, we don't have the choice to say, well, art and politics are separate, or I choose not to be a political artist. You know, of course, that's like a cliche, right? But maybe this is a cliche that everybody already knows, but, you know, you can't separate them. And, you know, and so just...
There's also a convenient point as well when people or artists say, I don't want to be political. It's because they really only want to be just as anything else, any other business in our world, just to be benefited by that system that only considers a few as the stars, and they get all the money and all the benefits, whereas seriously you cannot really avoid this political aspect of it, because that was one of the questions, like, why should art be political? Or, you know, why should people have to, what role can art play in politics? But in the end,
life is political. That's the problem. I mean, it's not, you know, there's no getting around it. And the other, you know, a lot of artists, whatever, want to stay in a you know, a bubble of their own making, whatever. And of course, that's fine, but it's not really going to create any solution for anybody. And that's the thing. At this point, staying in a discrete bubble where you're creating, say, little pictures of, you know, whatever, that's fine. You can do that, but as as we see, it's not going to support any change for the children, for the animals, for the earth. I mean, it's not even a woo-woo thing. It's just, what are you going to do with your life? I mean, I'm at an age where I'm seeing so many people, like my parents' generation, they're all dead or dying right in front of me, right? And it's like, you know, you see the transitoriness. You only have this limited time. And this place is in dire straits. So, you know, there's so much pressure to stay in fantasy and stay in your own bubble, and you're almost rewarded for it. So, you know, to challenge that, as you know, if you're really an artist, if you really want to be a creator, the idea is to challenge that programming that tells you, you know, it's cool to stay in your bubble and to create your, you know, your private version of reality, which, you know, in fact has no lasting benefit.
Exactly, absolutely agreed with that. And in that, also expanding the concept of art that has been very limited, and expanding it to becoming aware of, how do I participate in society? Who am I within everything that I express? Not only a painting, a drawing, or any other media, video, but who am I within the words that I live? How do I relate myself to people around me? Because that is what really creates a system. And if we see that there's a change that is required, each one of ourselves as individuals, as our own creation, must be part of that change. So as artists, we do see, and I think that we both agree, that we do have that responsibility to be become the spearhead, so to speak, the leading people that say, hey, we are our creators, we can actually consider this solution and integrate it as part of how we start seeing reality. That is not only all about winning games and winning popularity, but really focusing on how can we make our lives sustainable at this stage.
Right. It's not, it's not a competition anymore. That would be the cool thing if it were not, and competing for those art prizes and the art, the art stardom and all that system, which is it's equivalent to the, it's the same thing as like being, an actor or something like, it's equivalent to corporate world too, where you're vying for the vice presidency or something like that. Anyway.
Yeah, in the end, if we really want to make any of our lives sustainable and, in essence, not only focusing on that which is perishable in the mind, as, for example, some kind of popularity, we have to start seeing of what enables life and how the moment that we just focus on these little realms of arts or only seeing politics or only seeing economics and all of these as separate realms, we start dividing ourselves. So we can only really function if we start becoming aware of what is the real problem and we see the solution. So that's why we promote the living income guaranteed and to integrate it as part of our creation, how we can create a change in the world. That begins with this understanding that, yes, as individuals, we can propose these new ways of looking at reality, with a solution that won't come from your current politics, won't come even from the art realm itself. It is a brand new type of awareness that we are suggesting here as well.
Right, because it's the awareness. It's not that the art has to be dogmatically reflective of, it's not defining what the art is at all. It's defining the artist and defining anybody who wants to create. It's breaking down those barriers. So it's not limiting what the art could be. It has nothing to do with that. You can still do whatever you want, right? No one's it's not about judging that.
Yeah, exactly. You can obviously still be an artist, but integrate this bit of awareness, this bit of understanding that, yes, I am also part of this world, and why not integrate this that will also benefit me and everyone else, because that is in the end what this living income guaranteed system is for, is to support everyone. And even artists that currently are not able to make a living, as we know of many, and instead of being limiting ourselves because of money, also being able to have money and then be able to express genuinely. Jeanne, any last words?
No, I think that's it. Thank you for summing it up. That's cool.
Yeah, thank you for participating, and we will see you guys next week with another hangout. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Bye.
See you guys. Bye.